You know, I always find it crazy how no matter how long you've been watching the NBA, there's always something new to learn about. So in today's video, I put together a bunch of NBA facts that even the most hardcore basketball fans might not know. And honestly, if this video manages to teach you even one thing you didn't already know about the league, I'd consider that a success in my book. Oscar Robertson's career in Cincinnati was remarkable. Rookie of the Year, perennial All-Star, NBA MVP, and was able to average a triple-double for an entire season in just his second year in the league. But as brilliant as Oscar's individual numbers were, there was one question that kept haunting him. Could he actually win?
All of a sudden there was a campaign by some writers said I hadn't done anything. I've made All-Pro every year.
Despite his greatness, Robertson's Cincinnati Royals couldn't break through in the postseason. In fact, during his entire time there, the team managed to win just 2 playoff series. By 1969, attendance was dropping. The team had missed the playoffs 2 straight years, and something had to change. That's when the franchise made a surprising hire, bringing in Celtics legend Bob Cousy as their new head coach. But he wasn't just there to coach, he wanted to play. Cousy was 41 years old and had been retired for 6 years. In an attempt to spark fan interest, Cousy did the unthinkable. He actually suited up again, joining the roster as a player coach. For 7 games, he shared the backcourt with Oscar Robertson, but Oscar hated it. He didn't want to share the spotlight, especially with a man whose best playing days were clearly behind him.
41 years old and retired now 6 years, Bob Cousy inserted himself into the lineup at point guard for 7 games.
The whole thing was kind of weird. When Bob Cousy activated himself, we all as a team maybe in some way lost a little respect for him.
Bob Cousy and Oscar didn't speak to each other that often.
The two clashed. Cousy and Robertson never quite saw eye to eye, and the tension between Oscar and the front office began to boil.
What did Bob know about basketball that I didn't know?
Behind the scenes, rumors swirled. Some said Cousy resented how much attention Oscar got, the same player who had broken many of his records from his Celtics days. Whatever the truth was, the relationship between Robertson and the Royals was shattered. Before the 1970-71 season, the franchise made a move that shocked everyone. The Cincinnati Royals traded Oscar Robertson, their franchise player, their star, their identity, to the Milwaukee Bucks. Oscar took it personally. He later said he'd never forget the way it went down.
You know, it was just, after all I've done for them.
While Cousy's Royals continued to fade into obscurity, the trade turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to Oscar Robertson. In Milwaukee, Robertson teamed up with a young superstar named Lew Cinder, the man the world would soon know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And in their first season together, they dominated the NBA, cruising to an NBA championship in 1971. Meanwhile, the Royals' struggles only deepened. Attendance kept dropping, and by 1972, the team was forced to relocate entirely. Cousy and Robertson's uneasy partnership had unknowingly changed the course of 2 franchises forever. In 2001, Michael Jordan shocked the world by coming out of retirement as well, to play for the Washington Wizards. Most basketball fans are well aware of this, but what's often forgotten is that before lacing up his sneakers again, Jordan wasn't just the minority owner for the Wizards. For a short period of time, he was actually a part owner of an NHL team as well. Yeah, you heard that right. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player ever, once had a piece of a hockey franchise. It all started in January of 2000, when Jordan joined the Lincoln Holdings Group, the ownership entity that controlled the Washington Wizards. By coming on board, Jordan reportedly secured about a 10% ownership stake in the Wizards. But that wasn't the only thing that came with the deal. Because that same group also owned the Washington Capitals, Jordan automatically received around a 12% stake in the Capitals as well. So by investing in the Wizards, Michael Jordan also became a part owner of an NHL team. Now this wasn't just some random business move. Jordan was actually a fan of hockey and had friends in the sport, which is part of what drew him to the ownership group in the first place.
To a good friend, Wayne Gretzky. He's teaching me hockey. I don't know much about hockey, but I am a fan of hockey.
Now, of course, being president of basketball operations meant that his time and energy were mostly devoted to the Wizards. He wasn't deeply involved in the Capitals' day-to-day decisions, but when he did show up, it was a big deal. Players reportedly got fired up whenever Jordan dropped by the locker room. Even though he wasn't running the team, his presence alone was enough to leave an impression.
I knew I had to dive into the story and figure out exactly what Michael Jordan did as an owner of the Washington Capitals. Well, it turned out not a whole heck of a lot. It wasn't like MJ was in the owner's box diagramming power plays and stuff for the Capitals. What he did do is he went down to the locker room on a few occasions, and the players were awestruck, and they wanted to know more about being Michael Jordan. All those things that we see in The Last Dance are what the Capitals players back in 2000 wanted to know from Jordan.
But Jordan's time as an owner, well, at least when it came to those two Washington teams, didn't last very long. In September of 2001, he made a monumental announcement. He was coming out of retirement to play again, this time for the Wizards. And because NBA rules prohibit players from holding ownership stakes, Jordan had to give up his shares in both the Wizards and the Capitals to make his comeback possible. Now here's the wildest part. It was actually a hockey legend who helped inspire Jordan's return. Michael had become close friends with Mario Lemieux, one of the greatest players in NHL history.
Good friends, Mario, who I consider we came in at the same time, 84, won a championship at the same time, MVP at the same time, which I have so much respect for.
Around that same time, Lemieux had done something eerily similar. He retired from the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1997, bought a stake in the team in 1999, and then, in 2000, made his own comeback as a player. Jordan watched Mario pull it off successfully, and it reignited something in him. Seeing Lemieux dominate again after years away from the game reminded Jordan that maybe his story wasn't over yet.
You know, doing this, and then what kind of flipped the switch to make you fully decide to do this?
It took some time, actually. I guess I got the notion that as I got closer and listened to Mario, actually kick-started everything. I actually reminded him of putting me through this, but
So while most people remember Michael Jordan's second comeback as a Wizards chapter, few realize it was briefly a hockey chapter too.
My favorite bit of trivia from the story, Capitals owner Ted Leonsis told me that Jordan signed a bunch of hockey pucks for players and staff when he was with the Capitals, and occasionally Leonsis looks on eBay to see if any of those pucks might be on there. The fact that he hasn't yet found one of those pucks available for auction might be a thing where we understand that people want to hang on to it, to remember the quirky, weird, surreal, but definitely happened time when Michael Jordan owned a professional hockey team.
Now, you don't necessarily need to have an owner or a head coach come out of retirement in order to draw more fans. All you have to do is take a Chinese player in the draft and watch your ratings go through the roof. You know how everybody says that the NFL is king compared to the NBA when it comes to viewership? Which, to be fair, is true for the most part. But believe it or not, there was one game where the NBA actually beat out the NFL pretty badly. On November 9th, 2007, an early regular season game between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Houston Rockets was watched by over 200 million people in China.
An estimated 200 million people woke up early in China to watch the game.
That number completely blew past the Super Bowl's viewership at the time. In fact, even the most recent Super Bowl didn't get as many viewers as this random early season NBA game. So what made this matchup so massive? It was about two players. This was the first time that Yao Ming and Yi Jianlian, two Chinese basketball stars, faced off against each other in the NBA. And in China, that was everything. They called it the Chinese Super Bowl. Yao would go on to score 28 points, while Yi put up a solid 19 of his own. The Rockets walked away with the win, but honestly, the final score didn't even matter. This was a cultural event. An entire country tuned in to see their two biggest basketball icons share an NBA court for the very first time. Now here's the confusing part. When you Google most watched NBA game of all time, it still says Game 6 of the 1998 NBA Finals between the Bulls and Jazz, which makes no sense because that game pulled in about 36 million viewers. Still incredible, but nowhere near 200 million. I mean, maybe they're just talking about the United States? Clearly, I'm missing something here, because by the numbers, this random Bucks-Rockets matchup in 2007 might actually be the most watched basketball game ever.
There's your matchup tonight, seen around the world.
We played, I don't know if y'all remember the kid, Yi Jillian or Yi, whatever his name, that played for Milwaukee.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the next one.
Yeah, so he played, it was a night we played them. He was with Milwaukee. 200 million, bro. Ooh. Watch that game. I mean,
wow.
More than people watch because of them two boys right there.
When I was watching The Last Dance the other day for like the millionth time, you know, the documentary about the 1998 Chicago Bulls, something hit me. I realized I don't think I've ever seen footage of them actually receiving their championship rings for that season. The show never mentioned it, so I decided to look it up on YouTube. I just assumed that Michael Jordan would at least be there in a nice suit. But no, not only was he not in attendance, it turns out that 4 players who started for them the previous year weren't there either, including head coach Phil Jackson. Now, I knew that things got ugly in Chicago after their 6th title. Virtually every important figure from their dynasty was either pushed out or left on bad terms. But I didn't know that they didn't even bother having a proper ring ceremony. Instead, they just unveiled the championship banner and that was it. From what I've read, the remaining Bulls players received their rings backstage, while Jordan got his during his retirement press conference in January of 1999, which I would have known had I took the time to watch it that far in. We usually see role players who happen to switch teams get their rings later on when they visit with their new squad. But 4 starters missing? That's unheard of. Those kind of guys are supposed to be there on a night like that. Honestly, it didn't even feel like a celebration at all. It felt more like a funeral than a ceremony. Easily the saddest banner night in NBA history.
Remarkably poignant, remarkably dramatic, but at the same time, obviously very, very sad.
Certainly some good times, but at the same time, you just go forward because you know what? Those guys are gone.
While I expected Michael Jordan to at least make an appearance at the banner ceremony, I did not expect Bill Walton to make an appearance in one of my favorite movies. It all started when I came across this clip the other day of Walton revealing that he actually auditioned for the role of the iconic Star Wars character Chewbacca.
Is it true that you were in the mix to play Chewbacca?
Walton goes on to say that he didn't get the part, but he apparently had influence on the character. And by watching this clip, I also learned something else.
You were in Ghostbusters and people didn't know that, so again,
That definitely took me by surprise. So I looked into it, and sure enough, it's true. You just have to watch all the way to the very end to see him during the end credits. Filming for the original Ghostbusters took place between October 1983 to January 1984, and the climax of the movie was filmed at the real-life building at 55 Central Park West in New York City. Records confirm that Walton and the San Diego Clippers were in New York for a game on November 11th, 1983, placing Walton in the city when the ending of Ghostbusters was being filmed. I also recently found out that Seth Curry was in the movie Juwanna Mann.
Did you guys know that Seth was in Juwanna Mann? Okay, so Seth is in the when Seth was like 11, he was in the beginning of that movie, like walking down the street and there's some kids playing basketball in the front yard. Yeah. He's in that. And then the scene where when Vivica Fox's character catches Genuine's character in bed with the other girl, that was my parents' bed, like in the house. Oh, what? And then when Juwanna Mann goes and knocks on the door to punch Genuine, that was the door of our house. Like,
you and I have something in common.
We do.
We do. My film, Juwanna Mann, which was a basketball film, we filmed it in Charlotte, North Carolina. Trivia, we filmed the house scenes at your in-laws' house.
Yes. Wow.
I know. So I met your husband when he was like 10, 11 years old. Yeah. And then he starts balling in the NBA.
When we first started dating, that was his claim to fame. Juwanna Mann was filmed
And I might as well mention the fact that Aisha was in Hannah Montana. A video has recently surfaced of a young Kobe Bryant at a Phillies Mets game in 1990.
home run Darryl Strawberry. After the knockdown, he answers the best way you can.
Kobe grew up in the Philadelphia area around that same time, so it makes sense that he would be at a Phillies game. You may be wondering why he's celebrating a home run that was hit by Darryl Strawberry, who played for the opposing team. Well, according to Kobe, that was his team growing up, mainly because he idolized Darryl Strawberry.
Well, among those standing on their feet hoping to see a comeback by the Dodgers, Lakers star Kobe Bryant. I went over to talk to Kobe. I said, Kobe, you grew up in Philadelphia. Is it hard for this allegiance? He says, no way. He says, I've been in LA for 14 years. I said, what about when you grew up? He said, I was a Mets fan. He said, I wanted to be Darryl Strawberry.
Skip Bayless has built his entire brand on being one of the biggest critics of LeBron James. For years, he's made headlines for his constant shots at LeBron, questioning his legacy, his clutch gene, and pretty much everything in between. And for just as long, LeBron has seemed to ignore it all. He's never given Skip the satisfaction of a direct response. But contrary to what a lot of fans believe, LeBron has acknowledged Skip Bayless before. Well, at least his existence. Not once, but twice. Both times on Twitter. The first time came in 2011. Then, about a year later in 2012, he mentioned Skip again. Those two moments alone completely shut down the long-standing claim that LeBron has never mentioned him. So even though LeBron has made it a point not to publicly engage with Skip, we at least know that LeBron is aware of who he is.
No shit, Sherlock!
Matter of fact, Skip himself once revealed that LeBron personally sent him a direct message on Twitter way back in 2009.
This was sometime in 2009. I was new to Twitter, and one Friday I glanced at my Twitter direct messages, my DMs, and I was shocked to see one that sure sounded like, allegedly was from LeBron in my DMs. Well, it certainly appeared to be from LeBron, and it certainly sounded like LeBron. I wish I could have screen grabbed it at the time, but I didn't think to. Trust me, I did not imagine this.